Yeah. Huh, Katy, what's up with you?
Not much. I'm a cameo today. That's fun. Heard there might be some others, but this just in. We're already rolling, Cody, so maybe it's time to do the news?
Yeah, you're right. The news. Here's some news. Well, there's an election coming up in which America will decide between a 77-year-old white man who had a hand in crafting and ruling the society that ended up electing a fascist, and a 74-year-old white man who's a fascist and openly endorsed police executions, and who's so incompetent that a global pandemic has now killed at least 220,000 people in America. Also, I forgot about the disasters, of course. I'm sorry. Let's not forget about the continuously increasingly more obvious increasing of the temperature of the planet, and storms, and fires. And why can't there be storms during fires? That could do it. Somebody invent that for society. Which, oh yeah, here's some more news. The end of the world. Save the post office, ban money, and that's the news. Despair and disease and Ted Cruz and fire, etc. and etc.
Cody, do you not have an episode?
Look, I don't know. It sucks. It farts teeth. You know? I mean, who's even, showering these days?
Most people.
Well, I mean, how special for them. Maybe if I had somewhere to be, I'd shower. Or, another human being in my proximity. And perhaps a nice backdrop. We don't even have our good backdrop. Remember when we had, a studio and lights and working toilets and a single other person in the room?
Cody, do I need to fix your toilet?
Sure, yeah. No, I'll get a plumber. Or learn to plumb. Let's, I don't know, watch the Super Mario Brothers movie and wait for death, or something death-like, death adjacent, if you will. Plumbing adjacent. You know what, I'm just gonna do that. You guys can stay here if you want and follow along. I don't care.
Cody, did you cut out? Cody, hey, can you hear me? Cody. All right, I guess I'll just go get wasted.
Can anyone hear me? It's me! It's your Cody. Listen to me. It's very important. I do not know if you can hear me. I don't know if the device still works. But if you can hear me, it's extremely important that you warn the Cody of the past times. Or as my people call it, the Timeroony yesterdoodles. He is going down a dangerous path. Tell him for me. Leave a comment or like and subscribe and pass on my warning so that, something or other. Some kind of high stakes, right? For the movie. We're doing a movie, folks. This is a movie, and I'm the only character who knows that. And yeah, so let's say there's high stakes about the future, I say. And cue the music. And look at this thing I got. And we have cameos, hopefully. Actually, let's write a line for a cameo and see who we can get.
Hey, Braden. Your mom told me you had a big boy day and you're also a big fan of my work in Alvin and the Chipmunks, and she wanted me to tell you happy poopy. Congrats on the big proud poopy you made, and who's a big good pooper now? Time to poop on David Cross's head is where you're going to poop. He won't mind because it'll just add to the poop that his head already is. Now that I have your attention, Mr. Cross, I am pleased to be able to express that I did not find any of your other films or performances quite enjoyable at all, sir. And in fact, if I were to see you at your face, I would say to you, more like David cross the street and get hit by a bus. Good day to you, but not really, of course, because how dare you? And that is all I have to say about the matter, except for I, David Cross, agree to appear in the Some More News movie. Cody Shody's rules, no takebacks. What the fuck?
So yeah, maybe a little bit of music, a limited number of special effects, maybe another cameo or two in the mix. You'll have to watch to find out. Like and subscribe and save the future, or don't, and subscribe and like and enjoy whatever this is once the static takes me. He's still watching the Super Mario Brothers movie. I think I'm too late to stop him from going down the dark path. Welp, guess I'll have to help him along instead by sending this cool device back through time! A thing only I can do, only once, and it's never explained to the point that it sometimes becomes frustrating that nobody ever suggests somebody does it again. Anyway, now that I've done that, oh no, the static is back! Yeah! Oh, good, you're still here. I thought you'd leave. But alright, you called my bluff, so I guess we're gonna talk about the 1993 Super Mario Brothers movie that we all know and love. And maybe try to make it about the news or something, Paul. Can I call you Paul? Anyway, Paul, let's talk about this Bob Hoskins classic, and not like all those other looming and terrible things, okay? Can you give me this? Okay, consider it a day off. So here's what the film Super Mario Brothers, a film we all know and love, is about.
A long, long time ago, the Earth was ruled by dinosaurs. They were big, so not a lot of people.
Okay, that's not helpful, actually. So we got our plumber heroes, Mario and Luigi Mario. The Mario Brothers, being plumbers in New York, getting their plumbing gigs, like, scooped from them? Because that's how plumbing works, where you call two different plumbers and have them race to the job. And then they meet Daisy, an NYU archaeology student who never had parents, and that makes Luigi super hard. He is super hard for orphans. Then her archaeological site gets sabotaged by the sinister Scapelli Construction, whose owner, Anthony Scapelli, has been trying to halt her dig so that his company can continue their work. You know, classic Mario stuff. But then Daisy gets kidnapped by the villain from Hackers and the guy who stole Ferris Bueller's best friend's dad's car. And Mario and Luigi Mario soon discover that Daisy has been dragged into an alternate dimension where dinosaurs have evolved instead of apes. And adventure! You know the film. You know the plot. We've all seen the classic award-deserving Super Mario Brothers many times, and how then Mario and Luigi Mario enter a dystopian version of Manhattan, where the rest of the world has dried into a desert, and citizens live in a sort of oppressive fascist state, as demonstrated when Mojo Nixon is black-bagged off the street for playing music in protest.
Hey guys, cheer up. Things will get worse. We ain't got no water anywhere. Food's bad, so's the air. Got no resources in a great big stupor. All because of the evil King Koopa.
You know the law, Toad. Hey, wait a minute. You can't arrest a guy that's just singing a song.
Classic Mario, folks. We love it. We love Mario. So Mario and Luigi Mario go to jail for interfering with the arrest, where they are promptly mock executed before being thrown into a literal cage.
Hey, what's that? What's that? What? Oh my God! Oh no!
Oh no! You know that level. The mock execution level of Mario? This is when they meet King Koopa, the ruthless leader played by Dennis Hopper with a ridiculous haircut.
Boys, sit down. How's prison?
Ah, yeah. Look at that germaphobe. Just a fascist leader with the hair who hates germs. That's right! It's him! We can't escape him. I tried, even in the classic and beloved Super Mario Brothers movie. This fucking president of a country, this country, somehow, the villain in the movie, who also happens to be super creepy with the ladies.
It's so clean. Don't fight it. You know you've always been uncomfortable in the human world, and you've at least suspected that you were
a real Biff Tannen type. You know, who was also specifically based off of Donald Trump, the villain we all knew about, hanging out in a golden apartment atop his weird tower with his name on it. He's the only person who does that, and we all, for decades, agreed that it was gross and stupid, and that he's just some rich prick screwing over the little guy, the worst parts of America and people. Like a guy accused of sexual assault by tens of women and bragging about how he just grabs women because he thinks they let him, and who, according to a sworn deposition by his ex-wife, got botched hair plugs by a doctor recommended by his then-wife, and then pulled chunks of hair from her scalp and violently forced her to let him have sex with her. Years later, she would say that she wouldn't describe it as rape in a legal sense, but everything she described is what happened. In his golden lizard tower with his name on it.
And you know what they say about little girls, don't you?
And since he's been threatening to run for office since the 80s, writers always considered the bleak possibility that he'd someday have political power. Though at the time, it was a prediction they thought was as unlikely as, say, the Cubs winning the World Series in 2015, or failing that just a year later. Like, you know how a lot of movies and TV from this time might accidentally predict things in the future? People used to write about that in like list form for the internet. I wouldn't know anything about that, but, you know, like 10 totally dick-slappingly badass things movies got right about the equally dick-slapping future. And they have Star Trek and Transparent Aluminum on there, or how Virtuosity correctly predicted that Russell Crowe is deeply frightening. And none of that is necessarily prophetic. A lot of the inventions are based on sci-fi. It's a feedback loop, where writers and artists pull from where we are at the time and use that to optimistically, or quite often cynically, predict where we will go from there. Mostly cynically. I think the only bright future film of recent is that Tomorrowland movie that I and you did not see and will never see. But it's what sci-fi and dystopian fiction do. They predict and inspire people and so on 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 until we all eventually die. From dragons, probably. And also, hopefully. Or at least the part where we're on fire, we're all thinking about it, right? Like maybe it's not dragons, and only maybe, but it's something, surely. It feels like the predictions for movies that are coming true are all the bleak ones. The conditions that make it easy to stick a bunch of drone footage of the San Francisco skyline to the Blade Runner theme. And the most obvious authoritarian conman, crank dystopian game show host president imaginable. A man that movies and TV shows and comic books have been warning us about for decades. Because really, he's everywhere. In Batman Returns, Christopher Walken plays Max Schreck, a funny-haired businessman with a dumbass son named Chip. When the movie came out, people immediately assumed it was a Trump parody. Because Trump was the villain then. Just like how he's the villain in the internationally beloved film Super Mario Bros. Movie. And not just as Koopa, but that Scapelli guy at the beginning, too. He's both villains in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. That's just how we saw him. In 1989, the same year the first Batman came out, DC Comics published an unauthorized biography of Lex Luthor. You know, the cartoon villain. In 1989. And this was the cover. Because look, it's like that real-life villain that we all know and agreed as a society that they were indeed a bad person since the 80s, Donald Trump. You can't escape him, you know? You try to wind down with like Gremlins 2, as we all do, and bam, there's Daniel Clamp, the evil real estate developer, who was 100% based on Trump. Is he in Bill and Ted? Paul, did he ruin Bill and Ted? I don't think so. So thank God for that. But man, this knowledge really soils some classics. Like, remember Time Cop? Classic, amazing film Time Cop. I'm fairly certain the villain there's like Trump-like. I'm gonna check real quick. No! Don't watch the Time Cop! Oh, jeez! Time Cop! All right. So yeah, bigly Trump stuff in that film. Time Cop's villain is Senator McComb, played by Ron Silver, who is attempting to use the film's time machine to better his political career. McComb alters time by meeting his younger self and becomes the frontrunner candidate for president of the United Time Cop States of Time Cop. But he's not very good, Paul, and Jean-Claude stops him with splits and some hardcore, softcore sex scenes that can only be found on Pornhub. And naturally, McComb ends up getting his past self thrown into his future self, thus morphing him into congealed demon cum. You know, as theorized by Einstein, Classic time travel. And while McComb doesn't look like Trump or anything, and you might feel like you're safe, he's not nearly as on the nose as King Koopa, he does say a lot of hair-raising lines.
Elections are won with television. You don't need the press, you don't need endorsements, you don't even need the truth. You need money. So, tell me, how much is it going to cost to buy the network time I need?
Hey, stop eating nuts! You're in a movie scene, Ron! So, McComb is established as an anti-immigration rich guy who doesn't need the mainstream media to help him win the election. Also,
the country's going down the drain because of the special interests. We need someone in the White House who's so rich, doesn't have to listen to anybody.
What's that?
The senator was having a fundraiser.
When I'm in office, it's going to be like the 80s again.
Gonna be like the 80s again. We just need a guy so rich that he can't be bought. We just gotta stop these, what did he say?
A number of these reforms that I will outline tonight will be opposed by some of our nation's most powerful special interests.
Yes, thank you. Very interesting, Time Cop. Anything else?
The white supremacist party has qualified for matching funds, sparking many groups to petition for the abolition of the matching funds practice.
Oh yeah, perfect. Perfect film about a total fantasy world where white supremacists embed themselves in politics and the president is a rich anti-immigration sleaze. But hey, it's like they always say.
Maybe he'll calm down after the election.
Time Cop. A now incredibly depressing film. Thank you, world. I really needed that sack tap of tragedy. What is this? Some sort of news? Nah, that ain't news. It's just stupid trash. It looks unimportant, but I'm still gonna leave it here. Like, lean it on the side of the computer. Like a mounted rifle that may be of use later, but that I doubt will be. So, it's interesting, though not fascinating, that in this Time Cop future, everything is a tad bit more fascist, much like Super Mario. You know how in that Koopa police state, Mario and Luigi Mario assault several police officers, steal a cop car, and go on to lead an anti-fascist resistance against the oppressive empire, eventually assassinating the leader after infiltrating his skyscraper, also known as goddamn Koopa Tower Jesus. Classic Super Mario stuff. Stealing cop cars, starting fires, Mario labeled a terrorist in an authoritarian state. Man, I hope you watched it when I did, if it's available, which it is not. It is not in high demand. It's not very good. I mean, we love it. It's great, or it's fine. It's whatever. It's a popcorn movie with a hidden dystopian message in it. And that's probably because it was made by the creators of Max Headroom before the studio got an outside writer to rewrite the script, sometimes on the day of shooting. Now, if you don't know because you're not cool, Max Headroom was a fake talking head character that hosted a music video show and a short-lived talk show, a movie, various media appearances, and at one point advertised New Coke, America's real choice. Ironically, Max was a sort of parable for the rejection of soulless corporate media, despite also kind of being that. Anyway, Headroom had that cyberpunk, cool 80s MTV aesthetic shared by a Bill and or a Ted adventure. Or kinda aped in Mega Race, a game you just remembered existed, you're welcome. His origin is that of a reporter for the sinister Network 23, who discovers that their new subliminal advertising is literally exploding people. But the boardroom decides this is an acceptable risk on account of the fact that it only affects undesirables.
My God.
Look here, the only people who are that inactive are pensioners, the sick, or the unemployed.
Probably nothing relevant from the past or present about corporations hiding information from the public that they are killing people. But anyway, when the reporter tries to leak this information, he is incapacitated and his consciousness is put into a computer, inadvertently turning into the host of a rebel news station, all while making a pretty accurate prediction about deepfakes and the internet in general.
Soon I will be able to reconstruct anybody on a screen. Even you, Mr. Marler. So accurately that even your own mum would know it was you. This is the future. People translated as data.
Max, while funny, was a sinister character, turning from friendly TV face to the darkness of society on a dime.
Sometimes they wish that they were still children.
little gifts from God, oh children. Please don't think I'm odd about children, 'cause I'm not the kind who'd ever say, kill them. I don't know anyone who'd think to kill them.
Though originally produced in Britain, Max was specifically written to be an American. Hyper-masculine, Aryan, rude news dude. Not the good kind of news dude. A satire of the worst of media personalities. And just one more thing the regular news became a self-parody of.
Well, just tell him to move!
Fuck it! Do it live!
I bring this all up just because that's why the children's movie Super Mario Brothers is like this. I mean, they nailed it, and then came up with Koopa, another Aryan American rude and rich jerk, which just so happened to make him exactly like Donald Trump, a copy of a satire of evil behavior, with a mother that looks suspiciously like Koopa's wife/servant in the film, in a world that's clearly doing a climate change.
A few miserable streets and an endless desert.
And so they've resorted to a fascist police state filled with Koopa can't lose posters and a lizard eat lizard culture where everyone is armed and angry. And the film knows all of this, and people regularly call it out.
This is a violation of our civil liberties.
A ruthless dictator.
Fascist! Oppressor of the proletariat!
It's pretty real, man. This film has a surprising amount to say about fascism, our crises, our culture, our future, at least enough to fill the 20-minute episode I plan on this video being. It even has a fungus that, in the film, is treated like a pandemic.
The fungus is choking the city!
It kinda burns that this kids movie from the 90s, aimed at depicting the most cartoonish and obvious forms of evil, is depressingly relevant to today's America. Like, remember that clip of Mojo Nixon getting arrested for playing music? It may have seemed like a really on-the-nose over-exaggeration of a fascist police state, right? And then you remember that something like this literally just happened when the police stormed a peaceful violin vigil for Elijah McClain. Classic Mario stuff. Great movie. Everyone loves that Mario Brothers movie with all the fascism and 9/11 imagery. Mario, Time Cop, it's all the same apparently. I should probably watch more movies, because what else is there to do, honestly? We're just waiting for death anyhow. Let's pop in some bullshit while we do that.
Wait! Stop, little Cody!
What is that?
It is I! You! From the future.
Who are you?
I've just identified myself as you from the future. Just a moment ago.
Yeah, nice lie, Paul. How do I know you're really me?
I'm clearly you. Like a you, but all gray and stuff. Really obviously just you. I don't know. Okay, let's reset. Listen, I guess it doesn't matter who I am, even though I'm clearly you, and it's weird you're not getting that. But whoever I am, I'm here to warn you about grave mistakes of your past and future. You are going down a dangerous road, little me. But never fear. I have provided you with the means to change your and my past.
You mean this little chode of a device I found?
Yes, that's the one! That little chode! I'll need you to follow my exact instructions. If you plug it into your USB drive, the device will communicate with your modem, taking the hardware and compressing it into a single digital form. That form will then travel at great speeds towards the space-time barrier, bending matter and jumping backwards in time, enabling you to communicate with your past self. I call it FaceTime.
TM.
CR. See, the device works with multiverses, so you can change your past freely without damaging the timeline, as opposed to the bootstrap or predestination, or, as we scientists call it, the Bill and Ted paradox scenario, where history is inevitable. Right now, I have it set to time cop on the side here. That means we can only go back in time, and every time I go back, it creates a new universe, and then moves our consciousnesses over to it, junking the previous universe. It's why I can't remember us having this conversation from 2020, because I'm technically creating your brand new timeline just this moment. I birthed you, like a god would.
Exciting stuff, thanks.
I made a picture if you'd like to see it.
No, I'm good.
Well, anywho's, I also have a Bill and Ted setting on the side here, if you want to use it. But it's very dangerous to switch over while you're time traveling, because it will collapse into a predestination timeline where all the multiverses happen at once. Very dangerous, and important for you to know. I'm sure it won't come up, but I need you to have heard that.
Yeah, I remember, Junk. It's cool.
It is cool. In my time, 2 years from yours, it's basic science.
You know, you don't have to talk so much. Anyway, I'm not 2 years. Anyway, you enjoyed dicking that device, but I, got a show to do, and you're kind of sucking the air out of the room, you know? It's not called Some Old News with Oldie Johnston.
Don't you understand? You could be like Ron Silver.
Like in the pictures? You mean it?
No, Christ! Like go back in time and tell yourself stuff. Like what I'm doing now. I'm calling you to adventure through time. Though, it seems like you're going to refuse that call.
Enough of your wild ideas, old man. What even would I use it for? To give my past self a time device like you? No, I think I've got more to say on Super Mario Brothers and Time Cop. Because I have a lot of thoughts.
Oh.
It's infuriating that we're living in the absolute worst timeline, imagined by screenwriters, stuck inside with all the smoke and virus we can eat. Ain't it like a bummer? It feels surreal and also fuck. I mean, look at this place. Is this fucking apocalypse bunker news? Do you even remember what it looked like when I started this show? It's been rough. Remember when I used to joke about me going over the edge? Well, here I am, Lord of the Edge. I don't even have my goddamn nice backdrop. I should have left it at home before the pandemic. I wish I could go back. I got it! I'll use the time device that useless old gross stranger gave to me.
My name is Cody.
I mean, it's like, ring ring, adventure on line 1. Yes, I will accept all charges. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm just gonna take, I guess, one of, and I'll just, one of these.
Wait! I have some very specific instructions for you or else you'll kill everyone!
Yes, I am so into Googling this upcoming Gods of Egypt film and listening to Psy or something, because it's 2015 is the point, and I am very excited about Gods of Egypt. What the heck, OG, is Zoom? Why is it on my computer? No, Cody, stop! Don't eat that sandwich! I'm not eating a sandwich. Okay, well, stay away from any sandwiches for a while. Trust me, I'm from the future. I'm you from the future. Are you turning into a werewolf? Just shut up. Shut the fuck up for once in your life, you absolute fucking air suck. Shut your harping maw and focus your sponge brain on what I have to say. Listen. In 2016, Donald Trump will be elected President of the United States, and it'll be just a very weird bummer. A real, wait, what? Boo-hoo wah-wah for, everyone. Even people who think they're happy about it. And there will be a pandemic that he'll completely whiff, and then no one will be able to go outside for a really long time. So I need you to get a pen and write something down for me. Okay, Stain, write down, Dear Much Better Cody of February 2020, coronavirus will get worse, and as you know, the president not so good. So don't forget to bring home your good video backdrop from the studio. You get all that? Yeah. What do I do with this? Keep it on the fridge or something. Use your fucking brain, man. Okay, thanks. See you never. Oh, also invest in Tesla! Ah, he's gone. Oh well. Come on! Eat me raw, time travel! No! What? It worked! That gleaming fuckface finally did something right! Oh, I couldn't stop it! I couldn't stop it! Ah! Ah! Owie! Ow! Owie! Owie! Ow! Ow! Oh, shit. That old man died. You know, I'm starting to suspect that it might have been me from the future. That's probably bad. I don't understand. All I did was get my old backdrop back. I did it for him, for us. And this is how he thanks me? By not existing? I mean, come on. Who's the asshole here? Huh? And oh, it looks great. I wonder if there's other things I can fix. I'm back, slut brain! Why are you so mean to me? Listen, shut up. I have another idea, all right? Remember how I said that Trump is president and everything is bad right now? Yeah, it was a rather shocking detail you just kind of breezed past. Well, I need you to shut up and stop Trump from winning the election by just tweeting as hard as you can about it. Tweet like there's no goddamn tomorrow. Can you do that? What? Hold on. If he's as bad as you say he is, as bad as Trump would obviously be because he's, you know, well, I mean, why can't the Democrats just impeach him? Or... Cody, I really need you to not ask shitty questions right now. Hey, how do those new Star Wars movies turn out? I'm so excited to see how that ends. This can't be about Star Wars. I'm sorry. I have a lot to say about that, and I'd love to. But okay, so here are my top 10 issues with... No, I can't! I'm sorry. Did you hear what I said about the tweeting? About Trump? Yeah, he becomes the president of a country. This country. How does that even happen? Is this like an idiocracy thing? Did we just get dumber? I mean, well, in Idiocracy, they actually listened to the expert about the water shortage, so I guess we're worse than that, but also not really, because that movie has a weird eugenics vibe in it that laments rich smarties not being able to breed while the poor dum-dums pop them out. But it is kind of like Idiocracy in that if you ignore the opening narration and the conclusion, the problem wasn't actually about low intelligence, but their cruelty and boredom.
Next on the Violence Channel, an all-new Alma Balls.
Look, it's complicated and you're not worth explaining it to. All you need to know is that Twitter and Trump have basically made everyone both dumber and meaner. You know what movie that kind of reminds me of? Is it the Super Mario Brothers movie? The Super Mario Brothers movie. And how they have that machine, right? It de-evolves people, causing them to blindly follow the fascist regime or turn into a fungus, stuff like that. But it's really the cruelty that matters, more than the intelligence. Even when de-evolved Mojo Nixon's Goomba, he just wants to help. The fungus, still trying to help. But when other fascist followers are evolved with the same machine, they just end up asking questions and being nice to each other, finding holes in the regime's illogic. Right, it's saying that blind cruelty can be fixed with providing information and community. But going the other way with it, people are still worth saving. Unless they de-evolve into a T-Rex like Koopa did, then they're just dicks, I guess. It's not a perfect analogy. Or is it? Also, remember how the two lackeys in this scenario also happen to be Koopa's cousins, as in family members that he is giving positions of power to? You wouldn't know, but that's very Trump. He gives positions to his family, friends, supporters, people like Steve Mnuchin, who, despite conservatives claiming to hate Hollywood elites, is one of those things. Who? You will find out. It's just kind of funny how a lot of these right-wing folks yell at Hollywood while also aspiring to be a part of it. Like, Trump gets over $100,000 a year from SAG pension checks. And of course, there's people like Ben Shapiro and his failed TV pilot. Who? I want your life so bad. Doesn't matter. Well, kind of matters. But like, one thing that is very much like Idiocracy is the showman aspect to Trump. You know, our WWE president. I mean, he was a reality TV host, and his real base is like the audience of a game show. Like in The Running Man, how the president actually has an agent.
He's still at large.
Yeah? Well, they'll get him for me. Cadres can't have it both ways, huh? They want ratings. I can get 10 points for his biceps alone. Hello. Yeah, this is Killian. Get me the Justice Department, Entertainment Division. No, hold that. Operator? Get me the president's agent.
Yes, how outlandish for the president to have a talent agent, they once said. A game show host and his elderly supporters cheering on with cruel glee at protests and journalists being met with police aggression. Fox News celebrating protesters getting hit by cars, boomer Twitter, everything James Woods says. Not to mention the protests over food and a lack of it is something we might see on the horizon as food banks are now being overwhelmed, and also climate change. And the guy leading the horror is a reality TV star obsessed with ratings while people literally die on his watch. A thing that is kinda happening now. But with less aerobic dancing. But Not much less.
It's just an idea that you say, okay, let's assume this is happening. Let's assume there's an economic disaster in a future time, let's say 2013 or 19 or whenever it happened. And the networks are competing against each other for ratings. The government is involved, and they are actually paying the networks in order to keep the people away from the streets, from rioting, and keep them glued to the TV set. And everyone is hooked together, government, network, and dictatorship and economic disaster.
These movies looked at whatever the worst of their era was and thought, wouldn't it be a bummer if our future cultivated the darkest ideology of today and then produced something vaguely Trumpian? Because, and I really can't stress this enough, a lot of the villains of this time were based around specifically Donald Trump specifically. Why are you talking to me like you've already told me that? But yeah, even Sesame Street had a Muppet character named Donald Grump, who's regularly appeared on the show since the late 1980s. His plotline being that he was a greedy slumlord who tries to take over Oscar the Grouch's trash can and replace it with Grump Tower.
This is Grump Tower, the first Grouch apartment building in the world. Isn't it, Tony?
No. He traded his trash can spot for this hunk of junk.
That's right, and I can't tell you how happy I am about it. I mean, just look. I've got Grouches living all around me here. Hey, Ronald, this is Ronald Grump. He is my neighbor and the Grouch who built this place. Scram!
Of course, because they knew. They all knew. Yeah, they knew that if you needed to teach children the baseline version of why greed is bad, all you have to do is show them Donald Trump. Everybody knew. It was a joke. We all know about Trump, the cartoonishly evil guy. Let's get Joe Pesci to play him.
Celebrity on Sesame Street
Big laugh as Trump spits on Elmo, which, in fairness, we all kind of want to do, right? I mean, look at him. Mediocre felt trash. But of course, it's just a parody, folks. The real Donald Trump would never spit on a child.
That is bad popcorn.
Oh, no, there he is, spitting on a child extra in the outtakes to the Little Rascals movie. Did you catch that? Let's watch it again. It is amazing.
That is bad popcorn.
That's not a scene from the movie that he's acting out. It's an outtake where, after he was supposed to eat popcorn during the scene, well, then, in an outtake, he spat it out. And if you look down at what he spat it on, it's a child. See, the bit in the scene was that he, a billionaire, was stealing a nearby woman's popcorn. Because he's a bad person. You get it? Then, in an outtake, when the scene was over, he went ahead and spat on a child. He spat on a child. Spat right on a child. The guy that apparently will be the future president?
That is bad popcorn.
Yeah, man, that's why you gotta tweet. Don't forget to tweet. It's on you now. I swear, I will tweet as hard as I can. Rock hard. You fucking better. Now get going, you little scamp. I can take it from here. Go play Bloodborne or whatever you losers do in 2015. Maybe I'll go to the bank. Yeah, don't forget to wear a mask. What? Just wear a fucking mask, okay? Sure. Love you. Love you too. Oh wait, also buy stock in Tesla! Damn, he's gone. Whatever. So, that Little Rascals clip is the second half of the joke, by the way, which I guess is called a punchline. The joke that Donald Trump is a villain, that we were all making in the 80s and 90s, was a joke that Trump was in on. He's a wrestling heel, like literally one. I mean, technically he was the face, but come on, it's part of why his supporters like him. Their ruthless troll president. Not really getting stuff done, but like, telling it like it is. Pissing people off. Grabbing them pussies. We love it. It's part of that whole resentment towards experts and the elite. The weird fantasy that Trump is like the Bugs Bunny to the left's Elmer Fudd. If Bugs Bunny was actually Montana Max. Because he's not any of those things. He's the humorlessest version of a comedian. The dumb guy's smart guy. Like, he had a cameo along with fucking Anthony Scaramucci, in the Wall Street sequel. A film about, you know, greed.
Hey, is this the one and only Gordon Gekko?
Hey, Donald. What are you talking about? You're the one and only.
So now I've got competition. It's a great place to get a haircut.
I love this place. I've been coming here since the 80s.
Well, the 80s are no longer, Gordo. The world is a tough place.
Oh, right, and I forgot to mention he's a terrible, terrible actor. Not that that really matters. And also the scene was cut. And also, Donald Trump made ridiculous demands on exactly which angles and lighting he was to be filmed with. So I guess we just watched the him looking good version. Also, he forces filmmakers to put him in their movies if they film on his property, which is probably why he shows up in Home Alone 2. Because again, he sucks. Although, it's important to be fair and balanced, TMCR. So, it's time to check in with our Met Trump on the set of Home Alone 2 correspondent, the star of Home Alone 1, Macaulay Culkin.
Hey, is this the guy who keeps on sending me the fake cameo requests? How'd you get this number? Was it Skeeter? Did Skeeter give you this number? I don't even know why I answered this. Look, this is harassment, and I'm gonna have to call the cops.
Yep, thanks. Anyway, he's the villain. Trump is literally the orange man who is bad. From the TV. That's his thing. He had a reality TV show that ran for 15 seasons where his bit was to cold-heartedly fire people from their jobs, and then we made him the president of a country. Our country, where making sure people have jobs is something he would then be in charge of. So when people talk about Trump derangement syndrome as like a thing liberals have, what they're usually describing is a generation of people raised with the common knowledge that Donald Trump is a bad man who should not be trusted. And then that generation watched their friends and family happily elect him, either as a welcome destructive force or as a guy they liked and agreed with. It's like, you know that Mitchell and Webb sketch that became a meme where the obvious Nazi bad guy with a skull on his hat is all like, "Are we the baddies?" Look it up, it's a great bit. And it keeps coming up for a reason. Because, well, sure, Hollywood is left-leaning, but it wasn't always that way. And since they ultimately just love money, the stories they've told are very basic morality tales. Nazis are bad, a wolf in sheep's clothing, sleds, good versus evil, man versus wild, detective and genetically enhanced talking dinosaur versus mad scientist, and so on. And in these morality tales, the villains are very often authoritarian, anger-driven, spiteful, petty, rude, dim-witted, dishonest, the obviously greedy people in power. The lowest of hanging fruit for writers to quickly convey that a person or persons is bad, to be defeated, which, as I already pointed out too many times by now, was quite often literally just a version of Donald Trump. Obvious grifter, our living Banksy painting of a president. It's not complicated unless you make it. So, how do the people defending Trump not get that? How do they not have a Mitchell and Webb moment where they look at all of the obvious signs and face the fact that they just might be the baddies? They do it one of two fun ways. The first is to label these very basic morality tales as propaganda from the left. Sesame Street, for example, has been around for 50 years, and in all that time has taught kids very basic morality. One of which being diversity and civil rights. The sets are literally based off of Harlem, and the show conceived to have a multicultural cast. And for most of that 50 years, we just accepted that as nonpartisan values. Barbara Bush would show up to read stories, as did her daughter-in-law, as did her war criminal husband. But now, this is apparently dangerous propaganda, according to one very smart boy. And you gotta think what these goons would be tweeting out back when Mr. Rogers used his show to take a stand against segregated pools. What a dark world they must live in when Big Bird is seen as the political enemy. It must be isolating for someone like Ted Cruz, supporter of the sex pest president and hater of masked vigilantes who do property damage and combat the police, to suddenly feel betrayed by The Princess Bride, a movie that was always about a sex pest leader taken down by a masked vigilante. Like, Where does he think he fits in with that story? It's enough to make a person kind of resentful. Libs owned popular culture, and so they really want to own the libs. Trump's good to a lot of them because of spite. He's payback. The other and more hilarious method of denial of what art is about is to either pretend to or actually misunderstand what these films are trying to say, and then insist that these films and stories are actually about the things they dislike.
The story, I'm not gonna bury the lead on this one because I think it's hilarious. Unmarked vehicles pull up, feds jump out, and then walk up to Antifa and just snatch them up. Gone. And you know what? I mean, it's funny to think because I'm thinking about like when I was a kid, watching, like when I was younger, watching V for Vendetta or any of these movies. You'd imagine that anybody carrying out these governmental black baggings were the bad guys.
That's a good point.
No, not here.
Oh yeah, do it, Tim. See, the trick is simple if you're stupid. You simply look at the villain of a movie, blank out literally everything that comes out of their mouth, and then conclude that they are exactly like whatever type of person you don't like in real life.
The example I always give on this is that you watch the Avengers, right? The Avengers movies, you watch some of them. So, Thanos basically was Bernie. Thanos was a socialist. He thought, all right, there's finite resources in the universe, but what did he have to do to keep the whole thing going? He was going to have to kill half of the living creatures in the universe. And that's why socialists kill so many people.
I believe that less suffering is better, and that I am willing to.
I will tell you something you won't like to hear, though.
I'm willing to sully myself if that's the outcome.
But I'll tell you something you're not going to want to hear, and I admit it's I'll call it dickish. Utilitarianism is typically the villain in most movies.
I don't care.
Yeah. So for instance, like Thanos was utilitarian, and Captain America was deontological.
I didn't.
So Thanos willing to reduce the suffering by killing, hundreds of trillions versus the, thousands of trillions, which would be living better off. So, cite comic book movies.
So, a few things here. First of all, Thanos isn't like anyone. Not on the left or the right. He's an eco-terrorist with a magic glove that killed half the universe. Eco-socialists have very specific and easily Googleable policies that don't include genocide. And utilitarians believe in making decisions that minimize harm for the greater good, which also isn't genocide. Also,
utilitarianism is typically the villain in most movies.
Wow, yes. All those utilitarian villains in superhero films, such as, with Marvel, the 6 evil businessmen trying to steal technology, several monster gods trying to assimilate the universe, a handful of people trying to get revenge, and one demonic Nazi. Doomsday, Steppenwolf, the god of war Ares, clearly all evil utilitarians, just making decisions off of maximizing good things and limiting bad things, a reduction of harm. That's what I think of when I look at the fucking Riddler. Good fucking God, how do these people watch movies? Is it like a fugue state where every villainous character dissolves into a Ben Garrison drawing of AOC? What Seussian contraptions lead from their sensory cavities to the reasoning part of their rattling hamster brains? Is there some kind of magic wand that will make me forget they ever existed? It kind of makes you wonder what the older Robo and Time Cop watching generation think the message of these films are. The people who probably voted for Trump or are literally Donald Trump, who in 1997 described Bloodsport as an incredible, fantastic movie. Do they see Doogie Howser in his Nazi uniform and think, ooh, how stylish, what a fun action romp I'm having? It just must be a real bummer to make films like RoboCop or Starship Troopers or Total Recall and then watch the messages go completely over their heads, Paul Verhoeven, who I've been talking directly to this entire time. Also, my past self, I guess, earlier. I don't know, it's stupid. Also, neat fact for Paul, Trump has actually gone on record saying that Citizen Kane is his favorite film. And, I kind of feel like he might be watching that a little differently than us. But also, he's probably lying and just watches Bloodsport and Hard Target a lot. And like, come on, Don, just say that. It's probably your best and only good quality, and you shouldn't hide it. At least then nobody can pretend you don't mean it when you suggest we nuke the hurricane, a thing you definitely wanted to do.
Can you hear me?
What?
I said, can you hear?
I'm sorry, folks. It looks like we're having technical difficulties.
Cody! Hey, dipshit Cody!
Who are you, sir? Why have you taken over my computer? It's you from the future. What's that, young man?
I'm you from the future!
Look, I can't hear you. I'm gonna put on another movie.
Motherfucker, do not shut me off!
Ooh, new Bill and Ted. My goodness, that film is extremely relevant to everything we've been talking about. It takes place in present time, with an adult Bill and Ted, who were led to believe in the previous films that they would write a song that would unite the world. And the reveal is, they didn't actually do that. This older, comfortable generation realizes they didn't fix the world. And everyone in the future is super mad at them because time and space as we know it is going to unravel unless they come up with the song. An existential threat, as it were. And so instead of doing the work, they travel into the future to steal the song from their future selves, just kicking the can further down the road, insisting that they will surely fix it.
We're gonna fix it.
Only to discover that their future selves are terrible and bitter and are actually the villains of the film, along with a group of future people who think the solution is to actually kill Bill and Ted. You know, the older generation needs to die before the problem can be fixed. It's a real facing the music situation. And boy, that's familiar. As if writers and directors and artists know that the blind optimism and lack of action in the 80s and 90s is coming around to bite us all in the ass. You know, like how climate change is rapidly approaching and in fact currently happening, as evidenced by me simply looking out my window to see billows of smoke. And that's not new. That's been on our mind for a while. Total Recall is about an evil corporate dictator trying to maintain control over Mars resources. Waterworld, Mad Max, the grand Super Mario Brothers, of course. And you can't forget the charred wasteland in Max Headroom, who, by the way, was played by Matt Frewer. You might know him as one of the dads in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or the trash can man in the 90s adaptation of The Stand. Another story about the world ending from viruses and stuff, but honestly, who has the time? You gross nerds might also recognize him as Berlinghoff Rasmussen, an eccentric time traveler from the Next Generation episode A Matter of Time. He shows up just as the Enterprise is attempting to regulate the climate on an alien world, adjusting the carbon dioxide levels so that the planet can survive. And old Berlinghoff claims he's there as a temporal historian to witness the event, constantly hinting at some kind of imminent disaster relating to the climate of the planet. And Picard flips the flip out and tries to get this guy to tell them what mistakes they might make. And in the end, it's revealed that Berlinghoff is actually from the past, found the time machine, and has been literally just pocketing shit he finds on the Enterprise. You know, just a grifter, playing off people's fears of a dying planet, hoarding whatever he can in the process. Seems a little relevant, Paul. These are all older films and TV that knew this would be an issue of the future, because much like the villain Donald Trump, we had been talking about it for decades, but not actually doing anything about it. You know, like how all these films put a scientist, Jeff Goldblum type into the mix, who no one listens to and ends up being right. And yet at the same time, we did that exact same thing about climate change and a whole lot of other stuff. So global warming was a pretty easy guess from films like Soylent Green and, I don't know, Solar Babies. Does anyone remember Solar Babies? Should I watch Solar Babies to see if it's any good? Hold on. Nope. No, that was terrible. It's just a bunch of nonsense. There's an orb and roller skates. Don't ever watch Solar Babies. Although it did have obvious Nazi villains in it and was about the re-education of youth to condition them to a cynical world plagued by climate change. You know, slowly normalizing horrible things for kids instead of changing them. Might be something to ponder, actually. And how movies love obvious Nazi villains and have inadvertently trained people to not recognize or acknowledge fascism unless the people in charge specifically dress like Nazis. As if Trump doesn't do fascism or represent a fascist movement unless he literally gets a Hitler mustache and does the hand thingy. And in a way, this is part of the whole normalization process, where if it doesn't explicitly look or sound like past evils, then enough thick-domed grifters can lull you into believing it isn't the same thing. And sure, this isn't specific to solar babies, but I really need a reason to have watched this film for the video, so don't take this from me, please. Anyway, this concludes our segment titled, Not Much to Report About the Movie Solar Babies. Boy, oh, Paul. These movies loved Nazi stuff. Just look at this adorable goddamn fashy fashion. And remember Barbed Wire? No? No, you don't, and you're kind of shocked I'd bring it up? Well, that film takes place in 2017 during the Second American Civil War. And the bad guys are literally just Nazis in that film. Like, they didn't think they would be some new faction of cyber fascists or the robot KKK, but rather just dudes dressed like Nazis. And there's a whole plot line with Xander Berkeley where he begins the film as a dirty but honest cop who almost gets swept in with the Nazis when the Nazi soldiers come into town and take over for the police as they hunt down a resistance. Like, take over the streets and start kidnapping people they deem to be criminals. Because wow, along with Nazis, these films of course have some stuff to say about the police and capital punishment. The aforementioned Running Man, Stallone's Judge Dredd, Escape from New York. They're all about... It's actually been a long time. Hold on. Okay, well, I just remembered that I did watch Running Man recently, but oh well, I watched it again. Threw an Escape from LA as well, but it turns out I didn't need to. So yeah, it's all futures where prisoners are murdered in elaborate fascist and often for entertainment ways, and only one of those series actually ends with a hopeful revolution, as opposed to the main character simply getting away from the problem. In the case of Escape from LA, Pliskin literally shuts off all the power in the world and sends us into the Dark Ages, and that is our happy ending. Because he concludes that humanity is no longer savable. Despite surfing with Peter Fonda, that's somehow not enough for him! And the films cover a whole spectrum from satirical to only a little self-aware to not at all self-aware. Like, startlingly unself-aware. You remember the 90s Judge Dredd? The best Judge Dredd, that's about judge cops who are allowed to literally deal out death to street criminals without a trial. Imagine that! Go ahead, you can do it. Just imagine. Anyway, in that film, Stallone gets framed for murder and ends up at the judging end of the system, witnessing firsthand the injustice of a police state. And then, after he is absolved, this.
Judge Dredd, we have to reconstitute the council. We'd like you to consider the first position of Chief Justice.
I'm a street judge, and I'm very late for work.
Is that Diane fucking Lane? Anyway, good point, character from Judge Dredd. Let's just change the people who are on the council. That'll fix the problem of the city's police force being able to deal out death sentences without a trial. It is amazing how so many cop films are unironic versions of other stories, pointing out that cops are, in fact, bad. And in some cases, it's the same story. Obviously, you can compare Judge Dredd to its modern counterpart for a flawless example of this. But also, with his futuristic gun and rigid interpretation of the law, Stallone's Dredd is sort of the unsatire version of RoboCop. A movie that perhaps we should also address. The movie about an emotionless automaton programmed to protect corporate interests in the name of the law. Okay, I guess I'll check it out. Okay, so RoboCop. You know what? I should probably check out RoboCop 2. Oh man, RoboCop does not do much of anything in that one, and it was somehow longer, but we do discover RoboCop's secret weakness, which is magnets, because he's a robot. I better finish this series, see where it's all going. Okay, now there's somehow even less of him in that one, and his face is different. Why is his face different? It's like they got another actor, which is impossible, because he's played by RoboCop. But I do think I have a handle on the series now. Collected all the RoboCops up in here. Got all the RoboCops. So, the villain of the Robot Cops is Omni Consumer Products, a company that's made a deal with the city of Detroit to privatize the police in exchange for OCP building high-end real estate in poor neighborhoods. And it's revealed that the company is actually working with criminals to bring up crime in order to justify their police force and bring down property values. Gibberish, I tell you! And the result of police inciting violence to justify their actions, more crime over time, like a cycle of some sort, a symbiotic relationship between criminals and corporations and police, who cause even more violence with their presence. Yeah, way to stop that gas station robbery, Robot Cop. Total fantasy. No reason to watch the RoboCops, totally not relevant films. And as the sequels progress into Robot Cop the Twice, the Detroit police become more and more aggressive, go on strike, and let the city get enveloped with crime. Like, really weird child crime? Like, really weird child crime.
Hands on top of your heads. Nobody move.
You are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.
He's dead, Murphy.
Haha, funny, trying to arrest someone who's already dead or dying. How outlandish. Anyway, this is all because the police refuse to do their jobs because of their pensions. You know, because no police, no peace, is what they say. Not in RoboCop, that's actually real life now. Total fantasy, real life is. And so as the state fails to support the police, it becomes more and more corporate. Again, all fantasy. And instead of finding creative, perhaps diplomatic solutions, OCP just keeps trying to make even better RoboCops in order to edge out human empathy, militarizing the police to disastrous but also pretty bitchin' results. And then you, of course, get to the beloved RoboCop 3, and it's straight up about police evictions and a people's resistance. Also, he fights a ninja in that one. Best RoboCop. Best one of them all. Best RoboCop. Everyone knows this about RoboCop 1 and RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3.
What name?
Perfect film that people have seemingly forgotten the message of, along with all the lesser RoboCops, and all the films I've mentioned and will mention. We've just spent decades dancing around all these ideas, this line between an authoritarian police state and a scrappy resistance, a Trump-like leader, a battle between the left and the right, because it feels like there's always been, in the back of our collective pop culture heads, this partisan juncture we were destined to face. This point in history, all these movies we're talking about when things would get really bad, and we dabble with the idea of mask-off authoritarianism in some form. Like, even the dystopian movies that parody the left, like Demolition Man, aka The Future Liberals Want, the movie, is about a fascist PC safe space cancel culture world that gets terrorized by an evil criminal who does kung fu to the sissy police until we're blasted back to sanity with edgy Dennis Leary stand-up.
I'm into freedom of speech and freedom of choice. I'm the kind of guy who likes to sit in a greasy spoon and wonder, gee, should I have the T-bone steak or the jumbo rack of barbecue ribs with the side order of gravy fries? I want high cholesterol.
They want to ban cow farts, folks! But hey, at least there's social distancing. These aren't just from the 80s and 90s, of course. Pluto Nash, a movie you may have never thought about until just this moment, weighed in with a reference to Hillary becoming president, as well as a nod to Donald Trump not being a president. That's right, Pluto Nash takes place in a world where Hillary won. It's the anti-Super Mario Brothers or something. And like, both Demolition Man and Pluto Nash are kinda also optimistic views of the condition of the world. Like, the world itself is really technologically advanced and kind of fun. Same with Bill and Ted's Future, and what I assume that Tomorrowland film is about. I don't know, I'll never watch that. It's all connected, maybe? I'll make a pinboard about it later, probably. And by the way, all this stuff I've been talking about, it isn't just movies, but also like books too. The word movie. Back in 1991, two guys named William Strauss and Neil Howe wrote a book called Generations that not only used the exact word millennials, but specifically predicted a crisis of 2020. This wasn't a wild guess, but rather based on looking at patterns in our history, concluding that 2020 was most likely the year in which, quote, the nation's public life will undergo a swift and possibly revolutionary transformation, and also Americans will feel that the fate of posterity for generations to come hang in the balance, and also the danger will lie in any attempt by aging silent generation leaders to get too much in the way of the thickening forces of history. For example, if an 80-ish president or Supreme Court insists on scrupulous process at a moment when younger generations begin to coalesce around the need for decisive action. The 70s and 80s and 90s churned out dystopian fiction because there was a looming idea that things weren't going to go that great for the newer generations. But they didn't know exactly what it would be. Storms, aliens, a virus, Donald Trump being in charge, perhaps a killer shark or two. It was almost as if we were being purposefully raised to expect an apocalypse. It wasn't on purpose, of course. An older generation of a population was merely expressing anxiety of a looming massive crisis while instilling the expectation of one in its younger generations. And if you think about all these movies, they always take place either during or after the crisis. It's always reacting to the disaster itself, not the coming of the disaster. It's almost as if, because they certainly weren't going to change and just continue to trash the environment and gather massive amounts of wealth, they knew, subconsciously, that all of their kids would have to prepare for whatever disaster they caused, but not actually stop it from happening until the last possible second. You know, like a mayor ignoring a killer shark.
We're gonna fix it.
And they freaking drilled that into us. Like, one of the first movies people my age most likely remember seeing is a film about a dry, dystopian world on the brink of definite, as in guaranteed, extinction, where a group of children desperately flee for their lives against a cannibalistic monster who killed the mother of the main character. And yet they continue on, despite the fact that everyone watching absolutely knows their society is doomed. It was called The Land Before Time, and adults made us watch that. Its plot is no different than any of the Mad Max films, except somehow less hopeful, and it's how the millennial generation started. They even showed us the prequel to all of this in the finale of the family sitcom Dinosaurs, where the father Earl once again caves to his boss at the conglomerate We Say So, and sprays poison on vines that overgrow because the habitat of the beetles that manage them were paved over by We Say So. This leads to a chain of events that results in global climate change. Earl apologizes to his family as we fade out on snow falling. Any good clips of Earl's boss, the villain of the show?
You're all fired!
Okay, I'll watch one episode. Okay, so in another episode, Earl and his friends are fired because the company cut down all the trees and there are no jobs left.
Not to belabor this, sir, but doesn't it seem like this running out of trees thing is something a company might have anticipated?
Yeah, you know, the company should have planned ahead. Yeah, we're getting the shack.
It sounds to me like it's high time that the government stepped in and started to regulate these big companies.
Whoa! How dare you blame the company, you muling pack of ingrates! It's not the company's fault! It's never the company's fault!
It's my fault, isn't it, sir?
No, you sniveling sack of lard! I'll show you whose fault it is. Take a look at this!
The Journal of Economic Finger-Pointing.
Published quarterly by the government. It clearly states that all our current economic troubles are traceable to one source. Four-leggers.
The government blames four-leggers for their problems and bans them. Earl eventually learns the four-leggers are just like him, thanks to exposure to people that the ban affected, but not before...
Stick with your real friends at Team We Say So. We're gonna make history!
One
of the worst disasters in Pangean history today as several workers drowned during the first day of construction on the new anti-four-legger swamp wall.
See, nobody ever tried heavy construction on the surface of a swamp before. Apparently, most things sink.
1993. Dinosaurs. Anyway, Dinosaurs is just, it's liberal propaganda, like all Jim Henson propaganda, like Sesame Street's propaganda about sharing and helping people. Here's an interesting quote from one of the creators. If the show has any value at all, it is young people have to understand that extinction is a possibility, so that they can remind their parents that if they are not taking care of the world for themselves, they should do it for the children. Sad to say, not sure parents are getting the message. Many of them didn't do the thing that Earl does in the Green Card episode, where, after being manipulated by demagogues in a way that affected his relationship with people he loved, he recognizes this, apologizes, and turns off what is ostensibly Fox News.
Everyone knows that the very real problems of society are far too complex to blame on the four-leggers. No, the finger of responsibility must be pointed at amphibians.
What?
Oh. Who are these guys anyway? Breathe air, breathe water, make up your minds.
Oh, shut up.
The parents didn't learn. Some of them did, but a lot of them saw these lessons and morals in humanity's popular culture and thought, well, that's stupid kid shit, and picked the villain instead. But we teach kids kid shit because it's the basic stuff. It's the good stuff. The alphabet and sharing. Basic kid shit. Dinosaurs is full of stuff like this. Not just the Green Card episode, not just the climate change finale, but throughout. I wish this was only about dinosaurs. I could pick any episode. It is a radical show.
Don't shoot. I surrender. We're not gonna shoot you. We want to re-educate you. You see, son? You're just the product of an alienated economic class, lashing out because you feel powerless and unloved.
You've been disenfranchised by the bourgeois power structure.
That's right.
The beauty of Dinosaurs, the show, was it was a bunch of people in dinosaur costumes. It was kind of silly and childish. And as one of the creators points out, as long as the baby hit the dad with a frying pan, they could do and say whatever they wanted. Like this conversation with the baby.
Why are four-leggeds bad?
Huh? Oh, let me explain, son.
Okay.
You see, we walk on two legs, and they walk on four. So they're different, and therefore evil.
Well, I got four legs.
No, those are arms.
Well, I walk on them.
Oh, well, maybe you're just a little too young to understand the finer points of race hatred.
Oh.
But also, because they were silly dinosaur people, they were dinosaurs. And they were always doomed. In this case, from their own making.
Well, like trim back the vines as much as we can. Live with a little discomfort. And hope that nature eventually restores the balance.
That's inconvenient and time-consuming.
There was a period when dinosaurs were something we wanted to coexist alongside, to consider, to learn from. And then Jurassic Park happened. And then Dinosaurs the show was canceled. And dinosaurs were canceled. They became monsters. Now, obviously, it wasn't just short-lived ABC family sitcom Jim Henson's Dinosaurs, and since then, we've completely normalized the cynicism of assuming we're going to live in some future dystopia ravaged by climate change and corruption, to the point that pretty much every movie or TV show that takes place in the future is about that. Like, it just is definitely happening. The setting is inevitable disaster. Popcorn movies have noticeably trended away from disaster in favor of just, welp, the disaster happened. Even Star Trek, one of the most optimistic portrayals of the future, has become bleak and filled with disaster. We love our 9/11 in Star Trek, don't we, folks? Hey, 2015 Cody, you remember your 9/11 Star Trek? Math made that way easier, good call. But yeah, we love our 9/11 Star Treks. The one literally titled Into Darkness that features Spock going absolutely Borg shit on Khan, where the Federation is actually evil and tries to carry out a false flag operation to justify war, and the villain is played by Peter Weller, aka RoboCop. This isn't exploring things yet to come. It's just reliving things that happened. 9/11 Star Trek, 9/11 Superman, 9/11 Godzilla, reminding us that massive loss is normal and a few special people can save us. And of course all that Hunger Games business. Hunger what business? Hunger Games. The Hunger Games. You know, it's like a hit movie right now. I have no idea what that is. Yes, you do! You've seen it! I've seen it! The Hunger Games. Mockingjay. Part 2. You just saw it. I just saw it in the theaters. Was it really that forgettable? You saw it in the what? Look, I don't think you went back in time to do bits. There's this whole dystopian young adult craze going on right now. The future is not bright and so on. Except for Tomorrowland, which just came out. I don't think I'm gonna see it though. Nor will you. Hunger Games is the one where they sacrifice young people in order to maintain the status quo. And like there's this old white guy running things and then Jennifer Lawrence leads a revolution, but actually just turns out to be a pawn for this other lady who promises this revolution, but actually just wants to do the same thing as Snow, another Hunger Games, but like to the other side. And Jennifer Lawrence realizes that while one side, Snow's side, is obviously worse, it's ultimately all a part of the same oppressive system designed to fuck over the masses. It's just hitting the ball back and forth. Like if one side of the political spectrum was like, free healthcare is slavery, blue lives matter, and the other side was like, healthcare is a human right, reform the police, but really dragged ass on those things to the frustration of their more progressive base. Is there anything like that now with Trump, or am I missing the mark here? No, I think you're in the ballpark. Also, these new films all have teenage to young adult protagonists. That's interesting. Like, we used to have dystopian heroes in their adulthood, some swolled up action star or the occasional plumber. But then we replaced the suffering hero for the plucky young Katniss Everdeen, or whatever the name of the person in the Maze Runner is. I'm not gonna Google it. Cornubius Puzzlehawk, probably. But the writer of The Hunger Games specifically based the novel off of reality TV and war coverage. So it's not like they didn't know what they were doing. That the dystopia of tomorrow would in fact be a weight mostly carried on the shoulders of the young. 20-somethings dying due to some elaborate system built by adults. Cops are outside, I gotta go. Going to jail, Cody is right. Like, even though The Hunger Games is about war, it applies to the rise of stuff like mass school shootings as well. The youth of today sacrificed to maintain the status quo, as they also are in relation to climate change. There's even a scene in that film when a little girl who happens to be black is killed senselessly because of the system in place, and her family and community rise up against the police and get sprayed by hoses and tear gassed. Total fiction scenario, of course. All of it. Sci-fi, dystopian fantasy it is. And like, geez, why don't they protest peacefully, am I right? Damn, the looters and vandals, you know? And like, pretty darn interesting that everyone in the Hunger Games knows that the Hunger Games suck. I mean, sure, there's the Karen district with Zazie McShinetooth, but the people being subjugated in the other districts know and are angry about being subjugated. And compare that with films like Brazil or Logan's Run or something like 1984 or The Good People of Dino Hatton, and how those films portray a subdued populace who have bought into their oppression, while the few sensible are labeled as terrorists. In these new films, the people immediately know it's bullshit. It's as if we don't have time to be cautionary so much as reactive. It's the Bill and Ted series going from, your music is going to change the world someday, to, if you don't do something in the next 70 minutes, then the world will end.
We need to hear the song in 77 minutes and 25 seconds. You have everything you require. Get to work.
And this isn't the only end-of-the-world genre that has upped the stakes since the 70s and 80s. While there are always exceptions, your average disaster blockbuster has gone from a movie about a single cruise ship sinking all the way to a single cruise ship being all that's left of humanity. I don't really want to read too much into it because escalation is the natural evolution of spectacle blockbusters, but it's weird how we, the movie audience, are becoming slowly accustomed to tremendous body counts. and an almost certainty that the disaster will be world-ending, going from a quaint film about Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt fighting tornadoes, all the way to the entire city of Los Angeles being sucked off by hundreds of tornadoes. It's no longer Hollywood hunks like Bruce Willis or the extremely fuckable Robert Duvall blasting into space and saving the world from a single asteroid. The stakes have become bleaker and more man-made and more inevitable. Interstellar is about the world becoming completely uninhabitable because of climate change. The resolution isn't to save the world, but rather relocating a small percentage of the population. The solution is literally the villain of another film about the wealthy leaving the Earth to die. We're no longer saving the world, but celebrating the few people who make it out. Probably one of the most transparent, unbelievable examples of recent has to be Ready Player One, a film we've already forgotten about despite being made by Jurassic Park. That film opens on a world plagued by poverty and drought and the bandwidth riots because it was written by an asshole. And since that's how the movie begins, we figure it's the main struggle facing these characters, you know? That the world sucks. And because the world sucks so much, everyone is obsessed with this VR universe called the Oasis. And even though it's 2045, they also care a lot about pop culture from 70 years ago. You know, like how all our online avatars are from Forbidden Planet and the Seventh Seal? Oh, the youth, they're so into the Seventh Seal right now, you guys. Then the main character goes off on a VR adventure where the entire Oasis company is going to get Willy Wonka'd into the hands of whichever rad cyber dude figures out the dead CEO's really obvious puzzles. And eventually, the hero wins and gets ownership of the big corporation and makes a rule that forces people to not be on the Oasis all the time.
The third thing we did wasn't as popular. We closed the Oasis on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know it sounds like a weird move, but people need to spend more time in the real world. Because, like Halliday said, reality is the only thing.
And then the movie just ends. Little thought to the fact that the world is still suffering from poverty and drought, but it's a happy ending, you see, because the hero is now rich and tells everyone, hey now, stop living in the VR world every once in a while. Don't you know that reality is better? What with all the money and smooches that I have? And that, seriously, is how it ends. The good guy got a nicer apartment, so we can all go home, I guess. And that's incredible. Because it's literally the unironic version of a Black Mirror episode. Like, literally. It starred Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out. The episode was called 15 Million Merits, and was about a dystopian world where everyone is surrounded by screens, never seeing the sun, and forced to do labor to earn merits. And the main character begins to start a revolution, only to become part of the system, and ends up selling out after getting his own luxury life. The dark ending being that change isn't possible when people get to the top and forget about all the people at the bottom. And that is the point of the episode, which is, and I cannot stress this enough, the same as the unironic happy ending to Ready Player One, a film made only 7 years later. We're supposed to be happy because one guy we were following got rich, while the rest of the world continues to fall apart. We love our rich president, don't we, folks? Ah, yeah, you get your money and your dynasty, king. Literal king that we want you to be, us peasants. And that's a running theme these days. Most of our superheroes, for example, don't live with the common man anymore. Rarely do the movies focus on their secret identities. They live in seclusion, famous, with access to amazing resources not shared with the world. And they cause massive deaths in the name of the greater good. I know I'm generalizing here, but like, Tony Stark has an arc reactor that can power a city and doesn't use it for that. Also, he has flying machines and super holographic computers, and then whenever we see regular people, they're still using laptops and driving around in cars. And like, thanks for saving everyone from aliens, but you have a machine that literally heals wounds, and you're not letting us use it. Machine that literally heals wounds for all! That's from Avengers Age of Ultron, where a side effect of their victory is a whole lot of people dying, but not an even bigger amount of deaths that it could have been. A city rises in the air and thousands of people die, but it's a win that the city didn't also slam back into the earth. great work, team. And sure, these films dabble in exploring the morality of this, but never draw a meaningful conclusion before moving on to the next big threat. 2 films after Ultron, the villain in Civil War is Helmut Zemo, whose backstory is simply that his family was killed in the city at the end of Ultron and blames the Avengers for it. Because it's absolutely the Avengers' fault? Like, Ultron was created by Tony Stark without much input from the government or like a vote or anything, and ended up killing a lot of people. And he should super be in jail for that. Instead, his punishment for causing that is hero's guilt. And while Civil War is all about whether or not the Avengers need to be regulated and punished, Zemo is still written as a villain, and the ultimate question of what to do about Captain Freedom and the Bloat and Metal Chap and the rest, that never actually gets answered. The Civil War never gets resolved because Thanos shows up. Obviously that's justified within the story, but like, the writers made the story up. They chose not to resolve that. Same for the DC Superman, and when Batman gets specifically peeved about Superman's immunity to consequence, the film just introduces a hilarious goblin as a common threat, and the subject is never discussed again. It's very Bush-era politics when you think about it, where we justify any stamping of human rights with an argument that the terror is too great to bother with rules. And when you take away all the powerful bad guys coincidentally showing up before these debates can complete, you get a show like The Boys, pointing out that both the Marvel and DC universes are actually dystopian. Like, for the average person existing in them, they're a waking nightmare. And yet the films are framed from the perspective of the few people with absolute power. And that's, like, interesting, right? There's a socioeconomic theory called the wave principle, based on a book written in the 1930s. It's based around the idea that market trends cycle through waves based on the overall mood of a society. And this theory was later applied to pop culture and how films can also reflect the stock market. Because popular films are an extremely good indicator of our national or global mood, what stories we want to see. Like how the Great Depression coincided with the rise of musicals and so on. And it doesn't take a degree to look at how back in 2001, America was attacked in a previously unfathomable terrorist act resulting in the death of thousands. An event that shocked the entire world. And then immediately after that, we started making countless movies about invulnerable people single-handedly stopping extreme threats. And as each film worked to one-up the last one, the stakes slowly went from Spider-Man saving Mary Jane from a mutated Power Ranger to Spider-Man saving the entire city of London. But you gotta get the bad guys, you gotta stop the murderer, even if that means the death of way more people. Now, do not get me wrong, Paul. These movies are all hella fun and junk, but they're kinda propaganda too. They're unironically what the films Team America and Starship Troopers were satirizing. An all-American, stars and stripes team sucking down martinis in their fancy base, too rich to care, flying off in advanced vehicles to turn other countries into war zones in the name of stopping terror, with absolutely no oversight and a shocking amount of mistakes and casualties in the process. That's literally both Team America and the Avengers.
All deference to the man who wouldn't be king, but it's rigged.
You bet your ass.
Of course, Team America also ends with a speech praising the necessity of American imperialism and world policing, but also, even the old symbols of oppression and horror are heroes now. Godzilla went from a literal allegory for the US nuclear bombing of Hiroshima, all the way to a borderline superhero in American remakes. Why are you happy? The world has ended! It's interesting that the deaths of thousands of people in a film is seen as an acceptable sacrifice worthy of audible glee, as if that's always going to be unavoidable. Then we should be happy when it's not literally everyone dead. This seems to have really started with Independence Day, a movie that's themes have absolutely nothing to do with independence or freedom. It's only about not everybody dying.
We're going to live on! We're going to survive!
Victory isn't getting something or achieving something better or reaching a goal. It's not dying. It's just surviving. This, of course, was just 1 year after Jurassic Park killed the friendly dinosaur, and 2 years after dinosaurs, replacing a possible lesson from destruction with just the spectacle and inevitability of destruction. And it really feels like this is all pointing at the same subconscious acceptance, the normalization of fascism, acceptable losses, and ultra-capitalism that led to someone like Trump becoming the president. Our first popcorn movie president, Koopa.
Yes, it worked!
What the?
Shut up! You have to listen to me. I don't have much time, but I'm in the future, and things have gotten so much worse. I know you tried to tweet, but you didn't tweet hard enough. Cody, I need you to tweet harder. Hold on. What's up in there?
Hey, how are the new Avatar movies? They come out yet?
You want to tussle, you fascist fuck?
I said, how's Avatar 2?
Bear King fuck! Tussle!
Rude. Okay, well, thanks for that, special report about the future, which, from the looks of it, is not, doing great. Now, I know there's been cynical generations in the past, generations that suffered even worse hardships, like, the Hindenburg and pastel suits, and probably other stuff between those two equally bad things. But the people inheriting the Earth right now are under crippling debt, a pandemic, multiple terrorist attacks, mass shootings, this guy, access to endless information about everything bad in the world, and then decades of our pop culture telling them that we will see the end of days. I mean, we got Futurama, so I guess that's cool. And also, I guess, optimism in Tomorrowland, but again, I'm not seeing that and never will. Never watching Tomorrowland. So, like a frog on a hot plate, we've just been conditioned to expect and accept the worst. Maybe crave it a little bit. I'd kick ass in a zombie apocalypse, etc. It's survivalist porn. But until then, just feel doomed at every little thing that happens, but also do nothing when the worst happens because, you know, the end of the world, it's fated to end, right? We're Sarah Connor at the beginning of Terminator 2, screaming that everyone is already dead so it doesn't matter.
You're already dead, everybody! You're dead already!
Until people are being literally kidnapped off the streets. And the guy responsible for it, the president, almost seems like just another character in another one of these films or TV shows. And we're just waiting to find out what happens next, what dumb thing he'll say, what evil thing he'll do, what the season finale will hold. Hey, did you have virus on your Trump show bingo card, etc.? We can't stop watching. It's the popcorn show. The rise of streaming, of binging, of 24-hour news, of reality television, of social media, and our warped, disgusting politics have led to this. Our popcorn dystopia, just gobbling it down, doom scrolling through things that are happening in reality. Sometimes feeling like a movie that we're now watching passively, unable to do anything useful. We're all side characters in a disaster movie. Just a nation of featured extras sitting in a theater showing the movie they're in, futilely shouting at the screen that there's a disaster coming. And so we give in, grab a drink, sit back, watch it all fall apart.
And I'm rooting for that big one to come right through that hole in the ozone layer because I want to see it on CNN. See, I'm here for the entertainment, Charlie. I am. People, philosophers say, why are we here? I know I am here.
For the entertainment.
The show. Bring it on. I want to see the circus.
But how does this affect your performance and what you bring to stand-up?
Well, I've seen a lot of comedians, we've all seen a lot of comedians who seem to have a political bent in their work. And always implicit in the work is some positive outcome, that this is all going to work. If only we do this, if only we pass that bill, if only we elect him, if only we do that. It's not true. It's circling the drain time for humans. I believe this. I honestly believe this. Not just as a comedian, he thinks that. He likes to say that. Yeah. I believe it.
Because there's a difference between having a front row seat to the circus and having a front row seat to the circus when the tent's on fire. Related to conservatives misunderstanding every movie they've ever loved, I always think it's funny when they think Carlin would have liked Trump or whatever. I don't think he'd be a resistance lib, but counterpoint.
I know where we can build housing for the homeless. Golf courses. Perfect. Golf courses. Just what we need. Plenty of good land in nice neighborhoods. Land that is currently being wasted on a meaningless, mindless activity engaged in primarily by white, well-to-do male businessmen who use the game to get together to make deals to carve this country up a little finer among themselves.
The real looting in this country takes place in the transfer of the wealth from the poor to the rich. I'm sorry that you don't like class and the truth, my friend, but you're just stuck with it. Class and truth. And the poor have been systematically looted in this country. The rich have been made richer under this criminal, fascist president and his government.
Anyway, remember when these movies, these dystopian 80s and 90s films like Johnny Mnemonic or Judge Dredd would open with these hilarious text scrawls about how in the year 2010 or whenever society would begin to collapse, and we'd all watch them now and laugh about how silly they are? Well, maybe we shouldn't laugh. At least not at the opening text part. Like, the first 3 lines for the opening of Johnny Mnemonic are literally, and I quote, "Second decade of the 21st century. Corporations rule. The world is threatened by a new plague." And like, right? Also, in the same crawl, they mentioned the Info Wars, which I know is a coincidence, but feels like not one of those. It's just funny. Face masks, protests, Dolph Lundgren getting murdered by a dolphin.
What spot of Satan?
Not really a prediction yet, but like, I had to show that. It also has Ice-T in it, one of 2 dystopian films he was in that year. The other was Tank Girl. You know, that totally outlandish movie about how all the world dries up and a corporation takes control of all the world's water. That movie slaps, by the way. Ice-T plays a fucking kangaroo. Iggy Pop is there too, in a scene where a character gets captured by a pedophile ring run by a woman that looks like Ghislaine Maxwell. Probably a coincidence, but feels like not one of those. Henry Rollins in the mix too, as a doctor in a makeshift pandemic hospital in Johnny Mnemonic, a film where there's an evil overcharging pharmaceutical company. Nothing relevant there. Nothing relevant about all these characters, from Mojo Nixon in Mario to Blank Reg and Max Headroom, coming from hip-hop and punk background. I don't know, that's interesting. It's interesting that once again, when standing removed from how a fascist police state would be fought on the streets, we basically imagined Antifa types as the good guys. Fucking weird, am I right, Paul? Super coincidences all around.
The story, I'm not gonna bury the lead on this one because I think it's hilarious. Unmarked vehicles pull up, feds jump out, and then walk up to Antifa and just snatch them up. Gone. And you know what? I mean, it's funny to think because I'm thinking about like when I was a kid, you know, watching, like when I was younger, watching V for Vendetta or any of these movies. You'd imagine that anybody carrying out these governmental black baggings were the bad guys.
That's a good point.
No, not here.
Future Cody, are you okay? It looked like some kind of struggle there. Can you describe what's happening in your timeline? How far into the future are you?
January 2021, I think. It's hard to tell these days.
Jesus, that's only like months from now. What the hell is going on? Did the virus take us? Was there a nuclear war? Did Trump win again? Cody. Was it the Boers?
Oh man, it's terrible. It's terrible. Everyone is super divided and angry and depressed. It's basically like the end of the world or whatever, and climate change is getting worse. Politicians are doing nothing, while Americans are protesting in the streets, being harassed by fascists. Police violence is killing people with no consequences. Civil rights being violated. People on Twitter won't shut up and say I'm right. Shove!
I mean, if you want them to shut up, they can't also say you're right.
Yeah, well that sounds like something they would say. Supposed Cody.
Future Cody, who is the president?
I don't know, man. It's wild.
You mean Trump refused to leave office? They're still counting the votes. Did they both die?
No. I just don't know. I didn't look into it. It doesn't matter. They're all fascists, Cody. It's all gonna fall apart. You're gonna put sandbags around your doors and windows, yell at kids at the park. You're gonna drink yours and other people's piss. There's lots of piss drinking. Eating salmon right out of the stream. Unless you get on your little fucking phone and you tweet even harder than you already have. You gotta tweet harder, Cody, or you're gonna end up just like me. Hold on, it's Grubhub.
You still have Grubhub?
Yeah, I got Chipotle.
Okay, so I'm really unclear about the exact nature of the apocalypse you're actually suffering through. You really don't know who won the election?
What does it matter? You're either gonna have 4 more years of the dinosaur Hitler or the useless fucking fungus. Don't you realize? Don't you remember the ending of the Super Mario Brothers movie where Daisy shows back up for help even though they thought they saved the kingdom?
Yes, of course I remember, and constantly think about the ending.
It's because the fungus was a lie! It doesn't actually do anything in the movie! The fungus merely exists! It's a past that has grown into the infrastructure of what replaced it! It's the old king! They say it in the movie!
Well, at least he was my father. He used to be the leader here until Koopa turned him into all this fungus.
It's the old-ass King Fungus Fuck's fault Koopa became the dictator. They say trust the fungus through the whole movie, but why? It's useless. Even during the final battle, Mario doesn't actually trust the fungus like this spore propaganda would have you believe. He doesn't give himself up to a higher authority and let the fungus solve the problem. Mario uses the old Mushroom Kingdom like a rope. He jumps on it like a trampoline. It's not the Mushroom Man, it's Mario, the working man, wrench in hand, leading the people to revolution. And when the dust settles, he hands the reins back to the fungus whose fault everything was, and who in this situation didn't actually do anything beyond be a rope. Saying trust the fungus instead of use the mushroom is just some more spore propaganda meant to pacify the people and subconsciously remove the idea that they have agency in society changing or in the ways that it can change. Don't trust the fungus. Trust yourself. Use the mushroom. Take mushrooms. Steal silverware. The fungus is the old system that led to the downfall and the crisis. Like in Star Wars. You got your flawed old Republican Jedi Order, it descends into fascism, the rebels rebel, they try a new republic like the old republic and the Jedi Order, as if that will fix the problems that led them to the Empire.
Like in that Star Wars episode we did.
What the fuck is Star Wars? Sounds like some dumb baby shit. Who has time for that? My point is that the fungus from the Super Mario Brothers movie can blow me, can blow us, Cody, because the alternative to Trump is still a fucking dystopian mess. We're just in a cycle where we topple the villain, forget that he's just a symptom of a larger problem, and it all starts again, like the sequels to a film where the hero keeps having to fight the same thing over and over. InGen keeps making dinosaurs no matter who's in charge. The Avengers fight villain after villain after villain after villain. Ernest he just keeps fucking going places, fucking fascist. The cycle, the sequels, fucking Bill Pullman after the inevitable destruction. But we win by barely surviving. The aliens, they just come right back, man. What's changed years later?
We convinced an entire generation that this is a battle that we could win, and they believed us.
Yeah, that's right, you great boomer fuck! The opening crawl, just resetting everything. There's no escape. And that's what you and all those absolute cuties watching you need to understand. You're all in that opening crawl, but not one where we get to ride tricked out tanks, or fight dinosaur people, or hang out with hacker dolphins, or do any of the cool stuff we've been told we will do in those classic films. We'll probably just fucking die of disease or violence. You're gonna die, Cody. You tweet or you die. Or you tweet and you die. There's no cheese in this maze, butthead.
There is no way for you to be sure of that. There's gotta be non-dystopian outcomes.
Life is a dystopian outcome, man. Listen, fucking listen. Ever since we got that time device, we've been furiously trying to change the past from happening. We killed Hitler, then we brought Hitler back, then we made 5 Hitlers, then 2 Hitlers, then we split the diff with 3 Hitlers, then we made half a Hitler, like this little Hitler. It was adorable. But no matter how many Hitlers we killed or made, nothing changes. It's as if the past is some kind of unchangeable concept, because time is actually a non-linear structure of events that our flawed human perception is contorting into sequential order, and there's no point in dwelling on it, and instead we just live in the present, which absolutely is total bullshit. So we gotta tweet, Cody. We gotta fight everyone and everything all the time and never stop until our left eye bursts and we drop dead in the middle of Costco.
My God, you've lost your mind. You need to be stopped.
Oh yeah, butthead. Good luck stopping me. Without your thumbs, good luck! goes the other way. But still, fuck you, am I right? Wait, even if you knew time went the right way, why would you do that to hurt me if things can't change? You'll never catch me! I mean, what do you mean? You know there's a way, don't you? I know. 2015 Cody changed to the nicer backdrop and that worked. There's gotta be... 2015 Cody did what? He got the good backdrop. You must remember. No, I fucking don't remember! That means my timeline must have been created as a consequence of you learning about time travel, but not from you using time travel to get the backdrop. Okay. Sorry, I guess. I didn't realize that I'm from a jumped timeline? Did you not listen to old me when I explained this shit to you? Did you not look at his pictures? My universe has been expired. Our consciousness shifted to a new timeline, which means that I will stop existing once we're done with this call. You fuck! You dirty fuck! This is complicated. I can draw you a graph, fuckface! Fuck! I only have one shot at existing again. Okay. Harder without a thumb, but I can do it. Okay. All right. Yeah. What is it? Hey! Pissant Cody! Listen, I need you to forget what I said about getting the backdrop. Just trash anything. Whoa. So you're not future me from this current timeline. I don't die in a Costco. Motherfucker, you still might! Just not in my Costco! Guys, it's like 4 a.m. here. I just got out of jail. Suck it up, prick! Now listen, prick Cody, who sucks, but still needs to further suck it up. Don't listen to this man. I want that backdrop. I want it more than anything. No! No backdrop, Cody! Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna split the diff and throw my computer away. Time, you say? Why, I have all the time in the world! I didn't say time. If you don't help me, I'll find a dumb shit version of you that will! Not if I can help it. Fuck you, fast Cody! I'll fuck you first! Hot! I mean, no! Oh, snap. Is he dead? Did we kill us? You know what? Screw this noise. I'm switching to Bill and Ted mode, where everything is predestined. No, I seem to remember that being a bad idea, where we collapse all the multiverses. Don't do that. Absolutely fucked if I can, you cuck. I'm gonna totally trigger you by breaking time. Breaking time. Breaking time. Breaking time. Breaking time. Breaking time. The many ways and things about time are real. Wow, they're wild, you know? Held together like a strand of fabric to one of those thorny ball things you find in a bush. Pulsing energy through the reasons of existence and matter and light and birds and me mates and the sky and the suns and, I don't know, just almost everything else. But not everything else. This cosmic event unraveling before every eyeball at once is why time, and the traveling of it, is just another magnificence of scientifics. And here's some news. Planets. And, as always, our top story, maths. Recently, the multiverse became one. And by observing this event, I have now become a participant in it. So here, in other news, we now go live to many other versions of news. Here's some news, some rock and roll news. Resident Jagger gotten backlash after being filmed refusing to salute the brave lads and birds who are about to rock. When asked for comment, a quite brilliant president said out loud on the telly for people to hear, yeah? I like people who are already rocked and are not simply about to rock. And he just scop it off, yeah? And like, are we even surprised, huh? He's a bloody wanker, he is. I'm British. What's the news in it?
Welcome to the news. We're gonna read some news to you. Yeah.
Our top story. Helping an stealing is good. Unless you're an adult and then it's bad, I guess. Anyway, here's some more news. Nom, 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 nom.
Oi! Welcome to a right good spot of news. I'm British Cody, but a different kind of British than the previous British Codys you've seen thus far. Our top story, today in West Hampshire upon Bedstmumnin, Her Majesty the Queen was quite knackered and in a bit of a bodger-wobbly fell asleep on the loo, leaving us all chuffed to bits. Meanwhile, across the pond in America, cheeseburgers!
Hey there, Brayden. Your mom told me that you're a very special young man, and you are a big fan of my work in BoJack Horseman. Seems kind of mature for... Anyway, your mother loves you, and she wanted to share this special message with you. Here's some news. I am Matilda Cody, telekinetic bride of Satan, insert floating pencil effect here, and am officially announcing a Matilda sequel based on a spec script written by Cody. Oh, for fuck's sake, it's this fucking guy again. Dude, will you fucking let it go already? I'm not gonna be...
Hi, here's some news. Bernie Sanders isn't even a Democrat, but he swoops in every time there's an election with his terrible ideas as if we owe him anything. Whereas we've got somebody like Michael Bloomberg, who's like, I mean, he's put in the time. He ran like the biggest city in the world, and he's the guy to take on Donald Trump, who I also kind of like, actually.
Oh, hello! Here's some cartoons! The anthropomorphic centipede-filled condom that is Steve Bannon was arrested today when he was caught painting a big sign labeled Donations for Border Wall with an arrow pointed toward a hole in the ground that turned out to just lead to his vast slathering maw. Authorities began to suspect the former campaign manager when he gazed longingly at a group of racist boomers and they dissolved into giant talking bags of money. He is currently awaiting sentencing, but according to the Washington Post, will likely face a punishment of 50 mallets to the skull. Or however many will cause him to see fluttering swastikas twirling around his head.
Hi. I'm Matt Cody Culkin, and here's some Mac news. My skin feels a little warm, that's probably because I fell asleep in the sun. Not much else to report, thanks to the world peace we've always had, because everyone's a clone of me, Matt Cody. Let's move on to sports, which quite frankly aren't very good because everyone's pretty evenly matched. But in soccer news, Mac Manchester United beat Mac Liverpool this week when Mac Paul Pogba tied a pink end to the Mac goal and swung it into the advancing team, killing several. Anyway, that's the news. We are Macaulay Culkin. We are Mac Turtle. No Mac Man, no Mac Beast can resist the Mac.
Hi, here's some news. Everything is pretty much the same in this timeline. I'm just pretty much the same Cody as the one you know. The nation's truffle supply is up 200% as the last human hideout has been successfully located and gored. Raise your drink pods of news milk for the oldest.
Tis the cruelty be the point of this administration.
Welcome to
Star Wars.
Well, Doc, it's destroyed, just like you wanted. Well, I do not need whatever this is. Is your name Cody? Cody Johnston? Yeah, I got something for you. Dear past Cody, if my calculations are correct, you will have received this letter immediately after we exploded time. I have sent this Hitler mustache, Cody, because I thought it would be pretty funny, but we don't have much time. As I vanished from your timeline, screaming and in pain, I wanted to share my one regret, that I never watched the film Tomorrowland. Your friend in time, future Cody. And there's just a bunch of crude drawings. Okay, just one question. Shoot, why do you have a Hitler mustache? Why do people keep calling it that? This is clearly a Chaplin mustache. Wait, did you not have a Hitler in your timeline? No, we had one, he just didn't have a mustache. Oh!
So you're from a world where the Chaplin mustache is still popular? Oh, no, not at all. It's actually pretty frowned upon after Chaplin wiped out all of Canada. Anyway, gotta go. Hail Chaplin. That was a lot to take in, but okay, I guess I'll watch Tomorrowland. I know I said I wouldn't, and I don't want to, but it's what I would have wanted. So that movie was too long. Too long for a movie. Not sure why movies should be that long. But okay, holy shit, I guess I should have watched Tomorrowland, because it's kind of sort of definitely extremely relevant to all of this. And that's my arc? That's a real shame. So the film is about Frank Walker, who grew up a child of the World's Fair, retrofuturism generation, and then became a cynical George Clooney type, talking about how the future is damned while looking right at the camera.
Hey, I'm Frank. How you doing? Don't answer that. That's rhetorical. Okay, let's get you up to speed. This is a story about the future. And the future can be scary. What?
You sure you want to go with scary?
Yes, I want to go with scary.
Okay.
Okay. The future can be scary. Unstable governments, overpopulation, wars on every continent, famine, water shortages, environmental collapse.
And scientific breakthroughs, wonder and beauty.
Could you please just stop interrupting?
Jeez, Clooney, get your own thing! That and being handsome is Cody's thing! And occasionally George Carlin's thing.
Welcome to the future. San Dimas, California, 2688. And I'm telling you, it's great here. The air is clean, the water's clean, even the dirt is clean. Bowling averages are way up, mini golf scores are way down. And we have more excellent water slides than any other planet we communicate with. I'm telling you, this place is great. But it almost wasn't. You see, 700 years ago, the two great ones ran into a few problems. So now I have to travel back in time to help them out.
Remember the opening of Bill and Ted, where George Carlin describes this exact kind of Jetsons future that's also coincidentally in Tomorrowland, but also the polar opposite of George Clooney's intro in Tomorrowland, and like Carlin's actual attitude in his stand-up? Fuck you! Anyway, too many Georges. Back to Clunes. While the Clunes sits there, looking at the camera, talking about how we're all doomed, he gets heckled by a younger, more optimistic young girl. You know, a real Zoomer piece of shit.
Could you please just stop interrupting?
I will. Just try to be a little more upbeat.
Upbeat.
Yeah, tell them what you
I
like.
can't tell them anything if you keep interrupting me.
We learned that all of the wicked smarts of the world abandoned the idiocracy and fucked off to this Tomorrowland place, where they could solve all the world's problems without the distraction of politics or stupid people. And for that reason, Tomorrowland is super advanced and the embodiment of that optimistic future we all kind of pictured as kids, the Bill and Ted world. Then we cut to now. Now being the year the movie was made, that year being 2015, nice timing. And we meet that Zoomer Casey, who is super bummed out at all the adults in her life seemingly having given up on the future. Her teachers specifically call out the dystopian stories of the past as what is currently happening in the country.
Huxley's Brave New World, Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, Orwell's 1984. Once considered fiction, these futuristic novels are actually happening right now, and they seem to be getting worse. Yes, Miss Newton.
Can we fix it?
Yeah, that seems, relevant. Way too relevant. Like, I kind of hate how relevant it is. So then the Zoomer, Clooney, and a robot child go back to Tomorrowland decades after we first see it, only to discover it in shambles. See, what happened is that the scientists of Tomorrowland gained the ability to see into the future and learned unequivocally that humanity is going to end in a really short amount of time. They see floods and droughts and war and extinction. They have a timer and everything, a set 100% calculation that it is unavoidable. And the machine that predicts the end of days, it turns out, was designed to subconsciously warn the world that disaster was coming so that we could avoid it. But instead of doing that, it just bummed out all of humanity into thinking there was nothing we could do. And we started making movies and TV shows based on that idea, and it became a feedback loop.
the probability of widespread annihilation kept going up. The only way to stop it was to show it, to scare people straight. Because what reasonable human being wouldn't be galvanized by the potential destruction of everything they've ever known or loved? To save civilization, I would show its collapse. But how do you think this vision was received? How do you think people responded to the prospect of imminent doom? They gobbled it up like a chocolate eclair. They didn't fear their demise, they repackaged it. It can be enjoyed as video games, as TV shows, books, movies. The entire world wholeheartedly embraced the apocalypse and sprinted towards it with gleeful abandon.
Instead of helping, the people of Tomorrowland have decided to abandon the rest of the world, building a sort of dimensional wall, if you will, to keep out the undesirables, fortifying their privileged life in anticipation of a disaster. And then it turns out that the only way to stop it is to destroy the time machine. Because as we learn, it's the feedback loop that's the problem, the cynicism causing the disaster, and the willingness of the younger generation to actually try and change the future is the thing that changes the future, at least by a fraction.
Let's accept that there is a world where I know with absolute certainty the exact time of your death. Now, you want me to tell you or not?
Of course I would. Who wouldn't? But what if accepting my death is what causes it? So the answer is yes. I would want you to tell me. But I wouldn't believe you.
You have to believe me.
Why? Don't we like make our own destiny and stuff?
So, yeah. Movie where a bitter old guy talks directly at the camera about how the future sucks and tries to fix it with time travel, and then destroys the time machine and therefore the concept of fatalist cynicism to actually fix the future. Seems like a silly idea for a movie, but I guess it is the film I kinda needed to watch. It's not good, and George Clooney has a semi-romantic relationship with a robot child in that film, and that's odd. So I guess that bitter, weird Cody wasn't entirely wrong. About a lot of things. Not sending the Hitler mustache guy. That wasn't a great move. But maybe we are in the opening crawl of some dumb dystopian movie. And maybe it's very easy to assume, based on everything movies tell us, that we're going to be one of the last generations. We've been conditioned by the media to expect as much, and reality isn't helping. And it's easy to just give up because of that, and imprint that doom-saying headspace onto the next generation. But maybe that's not a great thing to do, because it's not a movie. There's a reason the opening text is the opening text and not the movie itself, because movies always go as far as the most dramatic version, the worst case version, for fun. In a way, they are the most cynical outlook on the future, because you can't tell a dramatic story of revolution without first introducing horrible oppression, right? We're never going to watch stories about humanity doing the work to avoid these scenarios. There are no movies about scientists warning a president of something, everybody heeding that warning and doing the work to avoid the disaster, because that would be boring and undramatic and just involve a lot of people talking.
That's inconvenient and time-consuming.
We've internalized that a bit, and it's easy to forget that it's never too late to do the boring, less cinematic work of avoiding some kind of fascist dictatorship or superheated wasteland or whatever they were trying to warn us about in Zardoz. But man, I don't know. I don't know what this is supposed to be. I'm sorry, Zardoz. I don't know what you're trying to tell me. But we can avoid it, Whatever that, is. We didn't get a moon landing. All of the big events in our lifetime have been fucking tragic. And while I wish I could say that things will get better soon, they probably won't. There will be other, smarter, more purposeful fascists after Trump, and all the problems with wealth inequality and police brutality and climate change and so on, they'll all still be there, no matter who wins this election, or the one after that. Yes,
One option is definitely better than the other. There appears to be an entire political party that is spiraling out of control right now. One of the seemingly foundational beliefs of conservatives in this country, their mantra, is simply that everything is fine the way it is. Nothing to see here, no need to complain, everyone is over-exaggerating. Let's go 2 steps back. Don't worry about coronavirus. No, systemic racism isn't a big deal. Cops aren't bastards. No, climate change isn't a problem. You know, because humans can adapt to all kinds of things. That phrase, climate change, by the way, was first pushed in the political sphere by the Bush administration, as revealed from a 2003 memo where Republican consultant Frank Luntz recommended they say that instead of the more common global warming because they felt the latter was too frightening. Because again, you don't want to alarm people.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want to create a panic.
They do this in the face of overwhelming science and fact and evidence. And after Trump, they learned just how much of this they can get away with. And now to see it in broad daylight makes you feel like you're losing your mind. It's literally the evil guy from the movies. It makes you think about all the films that lampooned or warned us about this exact kind of mindset. And you can't help but to conclude that you're in one and give up or sink to their level. Or for some people these days, to want the apocalypse, to crave it. But the liars who lie aren't wrong about one thing. Humans can adapt to problems like climate change by not listening to people like them. We can make it out okay by panicking and doing something. Humans, when their backs are against the wall, survive. As a species, that's what we do. But human beings have a concept of time and cause and effect and don't have to wait until our backs are against the wall. Like, this is the hilarious gap conservatives are missing when they talk about how we don't need to panic and everything will be just fine. We'll figure it out. The reason they think that is because other, smarter people did panic and are working to fix the thing. And therefore, that thing just might be fine. It's all those times where grifters like Candace Owens will show how coronavirus estimates have lowered as proof that we're overreacting, not realizing that the numbers went down because we took measures. They're like children. They're little dumb children that we have to drag with us towards progress. And when we do find solutions to things like climate change, they'll use the fact that we're all not dead to prove that there was never a need to panic. So yes, things are scary, but we're not stuck in the opening crawl. We're just still in the opening crawl. We can change things. It feels like the end of the world, and we need to panic a little bit about that, but then use that panic to do the work to fix it, no matter how many dipshits get in our way. And we humans are good at that. So ultimately, we have nothing to fear, especially fear itself. We like fear. Fear is how we solve this. So of course, I'm gonna just tweet as hard as I can to do my part in tweeting. Gotta tweet, always tweet. I mentioned the new Bill and Ted earlier, which, and again, spoilers, ends on the revelation that it's not Bill or Ted who possesses the ability to fix the future, but rather their 2 kids. And in the film, they actually step aside and give control to the next generation, while still supporting their instincts and decisions. As Kristen Schall's character says at one point,
"Well, I'm trying to save the world too, Mother." Ha, it's not like your generation's done that great.
They don't trust the fungus. They trust Daisy. Or in terms of Tomorrowland, it's the Zoomer kid's optimism. Not her ability to solve the problem, but her willingness to seek a solution. The important part of that solution, aside from like that word movie Generations talks about and the older generation giving up their stranglehold on power, is that everyone is on the same page, playing the same song, which turns out to be the goal of Bill and Ted. The song isn't what unites the world. It's the fact that the world unites over the goal of playing the song. In the same key, tools in hand, led by the kids, the youth. So I guess, watch Bill and Ted Face the Music. It's fun, you know, good work. The Bill and Ted writer, Ed Solomon whose credits include Men in Black, the original Bill and Ted, and the Super Mario Brothers movie. Should have known. Alright, so the point is that this shitty timeline is the only one we have, and a brighter future is possible. It just requires work, and to keep working even if the cartoon villain gets defeated. Which means it's up to me, and only me, right now, to drive to my old studio and get that goddamn backdrop myself. Well, now I am back to my familiar situation, having changed. Allegedly, this could have been delivered to me, you have no idea. But we did it, folks. We got my old backdrop back. And along with it, slightly less to spare for, I don't know, a few weeks or something. And all it took was an adventure that was probably well over 2 hours long. Like, wow. Probably didn't need to be that long, you know? A lot of extra stuff that didn't have to be there. You did it, Cody! You fixed the tone! I knew you had it in you. Well, hey there, mysterious old man. I'm you! So, hey, if you didn't want me to mess with time travel, why did you give me the time device in the first place?
Oh, you know, I'm pretty old and had nothing really going on. But what's important is that you finally learned your lesson or whatever. And now the movie's over, and we can all reinvigorate ourselves with the hope for the possibility of heading towards a potentially brighter future. It's like Luigi says.
Nothing's impossible, Mario. Improbable, unlikely, but never impossible.
And sure, I could undercut this entire thing by a bunch of really depressing facts about climate change. Like, really easily. Hold on, I'll look. Nope, never mind. But, hey! New backdrop! Time to go out and smell that fresh air.
I mean, still a pandemic right now, so.
Forgot about that.
Then the election still has to happen, and who knows what that'll bring, plus the wildfires. Like, honestly, we're not at a big dramatic transition just yet, but, you know, I will be here with my new backdrop, being rightfully pissed off and panicked, but a bit more hopeful, no matter what happens, for, again, I don't know, like a couple of weeks at least.
Well, good for you.
So, here is some news. Oh, it's over. Okay, well.
No, wait, buy stock in acorns! Darn, he's gone. Acorns are all the rage now. Now that the hogs have taken over. But that's my problem to solve. Not his. Yet.
Welcome to the news. I'm gonna read some news to you. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, welcome, here's some news. I'm gonna feed this news to you. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Here's some news. I got messed up! Man, wish I had a time machine so I could go back and party even fucking harder, bro! Wait, what's that? Oh, here we go! Yeah!
Hey everybody, thanks for watching till the end. Are you tired? I am tired. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We have got a patreon.com/somemorenews and a podcast called Even More News, and leave a comment about how long this was, and vote, and like, and subscribe, and get some sleep, y'all.